What if I told you that every single ecosystem, from the deepest ocean trench to the park down the street, is basically just one massive high-stakes game? Well, today on The Explainer, we're going to decode the rules, meet the players, and break down the strategies that decide who wins and who loses.
Right, so think about it. In this game, the board is the environment itself. The players? Well, that's every living thing out there. And the goal is super simple, survival. But just like any game worth playing, if you want to understand what's happening, you've got to learn the rules first.
Okay, so first things first, let's meet the players. In the wild, every single interaction counts, but the biggest distinction you need to make is this. Are you playing with someone on your own team, or are you up against an opponent from a totally different squad?
So we've got two main types of matchups here. You've got your intraspecific interactions. That's basically like an internal rivalry. Think of two lions from the same pride squabbling over dinner. But the real drama, the epic clashes we all think of, that's interspecific interactions. That's when completely different species go head-to-head. And when these different teams do face off, their actions aren't just random chaos. Nope. They're actually guided by a core playbook. And it really only has three fundamental strategies. These three strategies define pretty much every relationship you'll find in the wild. And what are they? Well, you've got predation. That's the classic hunt. Then there's symbiosis, the art of the strategic alliance. And finally, competition, the straight-up, head-to-head rivalry. That's it. Every single interaction out there fits into one of these three boxes.
All right, let's dive into the most action-packed strategy first, predation. Now, I know what you're picturing, a lion chasing a gazelle, right? But it's so much broader than that. See a deer munching on a plant? Yep, that's predation. A Venus flytrap snapping shut on an unsuspecting fly? That's predation too. Basically, it's any situation where one player ends up as another's lunch.
And predators have an incredible playbook of offensive moves. They can use pure brute force pursuit, or they can be super cunning and set up an ambush. Some have specialized tools of the trade, like venom or intricate traps. And others, they team up, hunting in packs to take down bigger prey. It's all about one thing, securing that next meal, no matter how.
But don't think for a second the prey are just helpless victims in all this. No way. They have a brilliant defensive playbook of their own. We're talking everything from a porcupine's sharp quills to a skunk's potent chemical warfare. They're constantly innovating. And this relentless back and forth creates this amazing, high-stakes evolutionary arms race where both sides are just trying to one-up each other, generation after generation. Okay, but the game isn't always about fight, fight, fight. Sometimes the smartest move, the winning move, isn't to attack, but to form an alliance. And this strategy has a name, symbiosis. It's all about different species teaming up, often for mutual benefit.
Now, the absolute best-case scenario for an alliance is something called mutualism. You can think of it as a plus-plus relationship. It's a true win-win. Both players get a huge benefit, and the partnership they form makes them way more powerful together than they could ever be on their own. And what's the perfect example of this? The clownfish and the sea anemone. Of course, the clownfish gets a safe place to live, like a fortress, totally immune to the anemone's sting. And in return, it acts like a little bodyguard, chasing away anything that tries to nibble on the anemone. It is a flawless win-win situation.
All right, next up we have commensalism. This one is more of a plus-zero relationship. So think of it this way. One player gets a benefit, a kind of power-up, while the other player is just completely unaffected. They don't gain anything, but hey, they don't lose anything either. No harm, no foul. A fantastic example of this is barnacles on a turtle's shell. The barnacles get a free ride, a mobile home really, and a constant stream of food as the turtle swims around. And the turtle, it honestly couldn't care less. It's just carrying a few harmless hitchhikers. And finally, we get to the dark side of alliances, parasitism. This is a plus-minus deal. One player, the parasite, benefits, but it's at the direct expense of the other, the host. A tick on a dog is the classic, kind of gross example. It's an alliance where one player is literally draining the resources from the other. So, okay, we've got predation, we've got all these different alliances. With all these strategies in play, how does any given organism figure out its position in the game? How does it find its unique place on this giant, complicated board? Well, it all boils down to two really key ideas: habitat and niche. Think of it like this. An organism's habitat is its address. It's just where it lives. But its niche, that's its profession.
That's its actual role in the ecosystem. What it eats, what eats it, who it competes with, the whole shebang.
And here's where things get super strategic. You see, every species has what we call a fundamental niche. That's the full range of roles and resources it could theoretically use if there were absolutely no competition. It's like its dream job. But in the real world, competition from other players forces it into a much smaller, more specialized, realized niche. That's the job it actually gets to do.
And this whole situation is governed by one of the game's absolute strictest rules, the competitive exclusion principle. And it's brutally simple. Two different species cannot occupy the exact same niche in the same place. If they try, it's game on. It becomes a zero-sum battle, and eventually, one of them is going to be kicked out.
But, maybe the most fascinating, most mind-bending part of this whole game is that just when you think you've got the rules all figured out, the board itself changes completely.
This constant process of change is called succession. The best way to think about it is like the game board rebuilding itself after some major event, like a complete system reset. Over time, a whole new sequence of players shows up, and as they establish themselves, they change the landscape and the rules of the game along with it.
And this rebuilding happens in two main ways. First, you have primary succession. This is like building the game from absolute zero, on brand new territory, like bare rock after a volcano erupts. We're talking a process that takes thousands of years. Then you have secondary succession. This is more like hitting the reset button on an existing game board, maybe after a forest fire. The soil and some life are still there, so the game can get back up and running much faster, usually in a few hundred years.
And all of this leaves us with a really powerful final thought, doesn't it? The game of life, it never, ever stops. The players, the rules, the board itself, they're always changing. The winning strategies of today could be totally useless tomorrow. It forces every single living thing to constantly adapt, to shift between competing and cooperating just to stay in the game. And really, the only thing we know for sure is that the game will always, always go on.